Hi all. My name is Zinzi, and in this 10-part series I'll be honored to speak to one of our veteran South African music producers, Gabi Le Roux. Hi Gabi. Thanks for joining us. Please introduce yourself to our viewers, although I'm sure most of them will need no introduction.
Hi, I'm Gabi Le Roux, musician, multi-instrumentalist, composer, music producer, and I've been in the South African music industry for about 47 years, which kind of gives my age away a little bit. But I've been fortunate to have had some real big successes and failures in all the pursuits that I've done. It's a roller coaster, and you just stay on it and do the best you can.
So, my first obvious question has to be, how did a white Afrikaans classical and jazz musician become a Kwaito pioneer? And how did you get involved in producing so many other diverse South African urban genres and icons?
How did I end up working with icons like, Mandoza, Brenda Fassie, Ivan Chaka Chaka, Bushim Slongo, and so many others? It's quite simple. I think there's a backstory there. Firstly, as a young child, I remember young African kids coming into our yard with wearing skins and wearing their traditional gear and with paint tins, with tire tubes pulled tight over as drums and doing some amazing African dances and songs and that. And as a young boy, that absolutely mesmerized me. I was so besotted with it, and I would make my own paint tin drums and also do dances and whatever and mimic them to some extent. And then later on, as a professional musician, I toured very, very actively during the 70s and early 80s, right through South Africa and most of the neighboring countries for long periods of time, sometimes 9 months, 6 months, 3 months. Those were the cycles at the time. And a lot of time off during the days when we weren't playing at night. Those days we used to play 6 nights a week, at whatever the venue is we were. So I would actively seek out the local musicians, in countries like Botswana and Zimbabwe, and that we would travel out in the day, travel into the country, and people would facilitate for us to meet some of the local musicians in the countryside, and we would sit and jam with them and, make up things together and whatever. And that really exposed me to so many of the African idioms, beats, styles, and general approaches to music. So when I applied that to, my compositions, my later compositions and productions as a producer, it was a natural progression, really. I always tried to incorporate that into my music. And later on meeting the younger guys like Mandoza and Chiskop and them, it was no different. It was just a natural progression of the music that I naturally composed.
Would you agree that Kwaito was the soundtrack of our people's freedom and emancipation?
In terms of the history of our nation, given centuries of oppression through colonialism and decades of oppression through apartheid, people express themselves often in those situations through the arts, and music and song played a very, very important role, particularly during the days of apartheid. There was a lot of freedom songs, apartheid-orientated songs, specifically some worded as political messages and others more symbolically and metaphorically. If you consider the days of apartheid itself, many of our artists were in exile, the likes of Miriam Makeba, Yuma Sekela, Bushim Slongo was in the UK doing things, and some of their songs directly really took on the oppression. Others were more subtle and perhaps just speaking more emotionally to the people. But as we got closer and closer to where Mr. Mandela was released, and then at the time when he was released, there was this celebration, this finally we as a nation, we attained our, our freedom, our emancipation. We thought it was going to be politically and economically. And there were so many of these songs that then came and reflected the mood in the streets. There were all these songs coming out of people's cars and coming out of people's houses and coming from taxis and on radio and, on television, just celebrating this new sense of freedom. And Kwaito absolutely was right there at the time with strong beats and strong rhythms. that people could celebrate and dance to and just show their joy and happiness.
Okay viewers, so this is the end of part 1 of this 10-part series. Thanks Gabi for this first glimpse into your career. We look forward to part 2 to follow soon. See you all then.